This is a very special webinar with my friend Marisa Frank from Nashville Classical, and we'll tell you more about her school in just a minute. My name is Tamara. I'm the founder of Love in a Big World, and I'm so glad that you're here with us today. As we all know, we are living in unprecedented times where we are still trying to figure out what school looks like. And here in Nashville, Tennessee, which is where we're based, school starts next week. And so, like many of you, there are multiple plans, one being in school, one being virtual, and then one a hybrid model. And getting started for this semester, everybody here will be virtual. And given the pandemic, given the current racial protests, we all know that there's an incredible need for additional social and emotional learning support for our children and families. And so today we're going to be talking with Marisa Frank about a plan that we've been putting together for the students at her school. So Marisa, welcome. And would you just give us a little background about you and about Nashville Classical before we dig in?
Absolutely. Tamara, thanks so much for inviting me to be here. I'd love if you could go ahead and allow me to be the host so I can share some fun visuals as part of my introduction. Like Tamara said, my name is Marisa Frank. It's mispronounced all the time. And I am the Dean of Culture and Arts at a school called Nashville Classical. And if you would just give me one moment to get my screen set up so I'm best able to share with you about our school. And then Tamara, if you would go ahead and give me a shout out if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, that's great.
Awesome. So like I said, my name is Marisa Frank, and I'm the Dean of Culture and Arts at a school called Nashville Classical. In this role, I direct our music program, oversee our specials team, but one of my biggest roles is writing and implementing our social emotional curriculum. Our school is a Title I school, so more than 75% are low-income, minority at-risk students. And at Nashville Classical, we really pride ourselves in our academic rigor. We have a really structured environment, and we're very intentional about every last bit that we're teaching to our kids in terms of math and reading. Something we're really proud of is that despite the fact that we have primarily low-income minority students, we were ranked #1 among Nashville schools with a minority or economically disadvantaged population above 15%. So of all the schools in Nashville that are serving low-income students that come from minority backgrounds, our test scores in math and reading came back as #1. But what we found is that this isn't enough for our families and for our kids. And so here's a picture. We were named a Tennessee Reward School for our academic achievement, but it's also a really, really joyful place. Every Friday we have community meetings where our entire school population comes together. And this is a picture that you'll see right there. We sing together, we celebrate, and Tamara has actually been to one of our community meetings. They're truly a really, really special moment for our entire school community. And again, we really pride ourselves on joy. This is us celebrating Black History Month at one of our local basketball games. And also something I really pride myself in as the music director, our school was invited to perform for our local Christmas tree lighting ceremony that was hosted by the mayor of our city. But again, these things are wonderful, but they're not enough. And we've heard it over and over and over again. And so today I'd love to share with you our school's plan for social emotional learning and why I'm so grateful for Tamara and the work that she's put into this program and how it has made it so much easier for us as a whole school community to really bring these character traits to life that you'll find in Love in a Big World. So Tamara, I'm happy to launch right into exactly how it is that our school plans to implement, but if there's something that you'd like to share before I walk you through what our school's individual program looks like based off of the curriculum that is so eloquently and carefully constructed by Tamara.
Thank you. Thank you, Marisa. So I would just like to share that last week we had a webinar about SEL and virtual learning, and we looked at 5 different components that we need to consider. One of those being intentionality, another being content, a third being family involvement. And so if you want more resources around that webinar last week, please let me know. And I'll make sure I send that follow-up email to you with the links. But I'm so excited to be working with Marisa and Nashville Classical, because this takes it to even a next level. We have to consider contextualization for the application of any materials. So Love in a Big World is flexible and adaptable to your environment. And this is an example of how Nashville Classical is using the materials for their population.
Awesome. And so I'll go ahead and share our plan. And again, just like Tamara said, this is just one school's version of what works for our particular school culture. And you know, you are the experts in your schools, and these are just ideas, but I do hope that seeing a framework might help generate ideas as you're trying to plan exactly what you would like to do to bring this program come to life in the virtual format. So what I'll do is I will scroll through piece by piece a real slideshow that will be used in front of our kids starting next Friday when our kids return for their very first lesson. Our program will be, the lessons will be taught by a variety of teachers since they will be live lessons. We designed it to be live lessons. These could be pre-recorded lessons, but for the sake of allowing families or kids to be able to engage in real conversation and make it more authentic, we decided to go with a live model. So here it is. Week 1, just like our awesome curriculum with Love in a Big World has perfectly planned out, we'll focus on choice as an entire school. So during that lesson, this is what we will see. We love the rap videos that are used in this program. We think they're awesome. The lyrics were so carefully constructed, designed perfectly, aimed at all age ranges. We've even tested these out on kindergarten all the way up through 8th grade and have received such a strong, enthusiastic response from the kids that we've already shown this to. So we'll start our lesson with a hook with zero introduction other than welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's get started. And we'll go ahead and play this video, which you should have access to, correct, Tamara?
They don't yet.
They don't yet, but they could have access to.
They could.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I highly suggest that you look into this in the virtual format. It is so hard to put together all of these pieces in a way that is truly engaging for kids. And Tamara has done all of the hard work for you. Highly suggest that you take advantage of it. For our lesson, I plan to pull out pieces of each wrap that we use as a hook and stamp those pieces so that kids can really lock it in. So for example, we play the video and then it goes directly into, we can never see all life's twists and turns like we just heard from in our video from this week. And no matter what temptations are whispered, we have the power to choose right from wrong, truth over falsehood, justice over inequality. Our artist from this week challenges us to choose to be great. So this week, we are going to focus on choice, the opportunity and power to make decisions. To get started, let's make sure that our materials are ready to go. Each one of you should have a journal that looks just like this. Make sure that it's out. Take a minute if you need to. Look up at me when you're ready to go. Awesome, I can see that we're ready to go. So today we're talking about choice and you should be on this page. Go ahead and turn to this page now. Great, I can see your eyes are on the screen and I know you're ready to go. Our focus for this week as an entire school community is choice is the opportunity and power to make decisions. And our objective is to realize that our choices affect others. And you could have, depending upon the virtual format that you're using, we are using Zoom. You could ask a student to actually read that to make sure that they're staying engaged. You could deliver it yourself. To get us started in thinking about choice and how important choice is in our lives, we're going to read a book called Oh, the Places You'll Go. And I'll kind of stop my live model right here. But I decided to use the books, and rather than hold the book up to the screen that Tamara has provided for her curriculum, rather than hold them up to the screen or use a YouTube video, I think that having the visual right up on the screen from, I've downloaded this as a digital download and then popped it into my slides. And I think that that is an option for you as well. We have the physical book as well. But within Zoom, we have found, as we're planning our virtual format, that the little head at the bottom of the screen on Zoom is really helpful so that kids can see a familiar face and feel more connected to their teacher. And that helps to really enhance and encourage an atmosphere of vulnerability and openness, which is what we're going for when we're teaching social emotional. So one more piece before I throw it back to Tamara. I built in visual prompts so that kids know exactly what to do and when. Just like we're all planning for virtual, how do we do it? How do we explain things? Research is showing us, what limited research there is about virtual learning, that visuals on a page are so much more effective than just talk to kids. So for every instruction, I've built in a visual that supports the instruction. Turn to this page, read with me here. And then sometimes it's the smallest decisions that can change your life forever. This is directly from the journals that are provided for you in the curriculum. Then as you listen, think about, what is a slump? And these are all questions that come directly from the curriculum. Think about, what is Dr. Seuss's advice? What types of attitudes, words, and actions do I need to move mountains? And this is designed to frame kids, get them in the right frame of thinking before we launch into the book. Then prompting them to write here, knowing that kids might not get that instruction right. And I've personally, for our school, built in even extra visual supports. We'll write on the left side of the book in very small writing, but we will not write on the right side because we want to save that for journaling throughout the week. So letting them know exactly what the expectation is with those journals, and getting that out on the front end will really help with kids using these journals in the appropriate way, knowing that if you're not there to prompt them and support them in their homes or wherever it is that they're learning from, they could be tempted to flip through and use the other parts. And if that's the case, then you won't have this tool available when you get to the next week and you need to have blank space. So really front loading and showing them visually exactly what the expectation is, making it super clear for them so that you don't end up wasting this incredible resource of the journal. So I'm actually going to stop right there and allow Tamara to offer some additional insights related to the journal, related to books, anything that I've not touched on, other ways to consider using the curriculum.
Thank you, Marisa. I love this. It's so exciting to see things come to life. It's one thing to be a creator and work with kids on my own, but another to see it take on a life of its own with people like you. So I'm thrilled. What I'm seeing is, and what I love is making sure that there's that intentionality the content and making sure there's that diverse representation with the content. And then also making sure that there's in real life opportunities for the kids to not only connect via screen, but for them to connect pen to paper on their own to make it more real. I'm wondering, with those kinds of prompts that you created, and this might sound a little geeky, but what programs did you use? How long did it take to create those kinds of visuals to help your kids?
So one thing that I've found is that I've spent a lot of time preparing my very first slideshow. And then after that, once that template was created, it is so easy just to plug and go because you have truly created everything. One thing that research shows and that we have found to be true in our own work at Nashville Classical is that consistency is key. Structure is key. When there are so many variables in our kids' lives right now, in our parents' lives, in our grandma, grandpa's lives, and just the world in general, having a system that is reliable, knowing that we'll start with a hook, a video, that there'll be some quotes, that after that, we're going to get out our journals, we'll listen to a book. So having that framework that is consistent every single day is going to help kids to be successful because they won't have to think about what it is that they're doing next, but instead they'll be able to focus on the content that's being presented to them that day. So there was some effort on the front end, but only for that first. And now you have done the rest of the work, Tamara, and literally I was able to plug in the framing questions, the discussion questions. The rest of it was actually pretty easy. We love the Google Suite. We use Google Slides. We use Google Classrooms at Nashville Classical right now. And we purchased the digital download off Amazon. They have everything under the sun. So it is purchased and we just plugged those images right into our slideshow so that it's big, bright, and beautiful for kids and for teachers.
Great. So tell us more about the rollout. What does this look like logistically at Nashville Classical, and what other components are you using in order to engage families?
Sure. So why don't I finish quickly scrolling through this particular lesson, and then we can get to the additional things that are taking place within our school community. So this lesson would take place on Friday. We decided on Friday because that works with our schedule. You could just as easily start on a Monday, but that's just what worked for us. So we would continue through the lesson, and I'll share my screen quickly. Again, thanks for your patience. I'm becoming more of an expert at Zoom now than I ever thought I would be. All right, so we read through the book, and again, big, beautiful pictures. This is off Amazon, digital book downloads, the Kindle app. I'll go as quickly as I can, but gorgeous pictures. And I think that's important for kids. So then afterwards, they'll jot down in their journals, what is a slump? What is Dr. Seuss's advice? What types of attitudes towards actions do I need to move mountains? Those visual prompts again. Then I added in a little bit of music, and let me know if you're able to hear this. So I added a little bit of reflective music up in the corner just in terms of logistics. Then kids will share with a teammate. We're going to be using breakout rooms in Zoom. I would assume a lot of us teachers will be using breakout rooms in Zoom. They'll share in a breakout room. Then they'll share their thoughts in a chat. So this is similar to think, pair, share, like we use in our classroom. They'll think on their own through journaling. They'll pair with a neighbor through a breakout room, and then they'll share their thoughts in the chat rather than using airtime to have 30 kids sharing out loud. So then I'll actually get down to here. So here's what's going to happen after we teach that lesson. To support generalization of the character trait and aligning tool or skill in the classroom, scholars will, we call our kids scholars at our school, they will review and practice the weekly character trait and aligning tool or skill for 10 minutes in a small group morning meeting. So this will happen for 10 minutes, Monday through Thursday, during daily morning meetings. The weekly schedule looks like this. On Monday, there will be a guided group discussion. On Tuesday, a teacher will share a personal story about a time that they did not show one of these character traits or the character trait of the week and what they would have done if they had had the tools that we're talking about this week. Then Wednesday, practice within a scenario. And then on Thursday, we're going to write a personal commitment. This is a variation from some of the suggested activities that are included in Love in a Big World. But in the virtual format, we thought that this was what worked best for our school. And that's what I love about Love in a Big World, that it is so flexible. But that being said, when we get back into the classroom, all of the weekly activities are created already. So you can just plug in and you can go. And then of course on Friday, we'll have our 50-minute lesson on the new focus for the upcoming week. Something else that we are launching that we think will be a lot of fun, because in this virtual format, it's harder for kids to get to share in, imagining a big circle of kids where they're getting to share out with one another, like is suggested in Love in a Big World. Because we can't physically do that in the virtual setting, here's how we've adapted it to work through distance learning. Kids essentially in Google Classrooms will have their own team thread, so classroom thread, and they'll get to share their own thoughts. We're calling it Have You Ever Felt This Way? Where they get to share about a time that it was really hard for them to show courage, or it was really hard for them to make a good choice. And then they can end it with the hashtag, Have You Ever Felt This Way? And that's just a fun thing that we decided to do. But again, there's a lot of flexibility for you to make those choices within your own classrooms. And how do we adapt to make the feeling of being in a really intimate setting in a classroom, in a circle where we can see all of our peers. And that's the design, that's what we want ultimately. But how do we make that happen virtually? This is one way that you could do it. We're also adding in a family challenge, and we are going to post that on our social media, and directly related to activities that come from Love in a Big World. There are lots and lots of activities to choose from for kids to partake in with their families at home. We'll post a beautiful picture up, and we'll challenge families to spend time with their kids talking about the focus of the week. And again, all of this is right in the curriculum. Ideas are already there. And for our first one, we're adapting it just slightly, and we're encouraging families to take a picture of themselves and their family members wearing a mask, thinking about how do our choices impact others. And, again, that's a way to adapt to make it really make sense and come to life in this virtual format. So this is our first post. We're going to challenge families to post a picture of themselves wearing their masks. We think it'll be really fun and meaningful. And then there's that Have You Ever Felt This Way thread that will be on Google Classrooms. This is a really fun part with the rap videos that Tamara has created that are so awesome. We are going to accept performances of rap videos from our kids, and we're going to post it on our own social media. We'll also showcase that at our community meeting the next week. And at community meeting on Fridays in the mornings, we will also perform and join in on singing the video that was already created by Love in a Big World. Always a fun part. And of course, we'll share those videos on our personal school social media so that families can feel really connected and like they're together, like we are a community, even though we really are far apart. So really trying to be intentional about how can we take what's awesome about the digital format and the virtual format and really utilize that to our benefit. So a lot of social media, a lot of, videos and that sort of thing. But we're really hopeful that this will help our families and our kids and our staff feel connected during this really challenging time. And then I've already mentioned it, but every Friday, our school has Friday community meetings. This is not new. This is something that we did before we even entered the virtual format. But we decided it was such an important part of our school's culture that we're going to adapt it for the virtual format. So every single Friday morning will be dedicated and themed around the focus of the week. And again, we'll showcase pictures of our families wearing their masks. We'll showcase the videos of kids performing. We'll all perform the song together, the rap video. And truly, we've gotten such an enthusiastic response from our entire school community on all these pieces together, and how helpful they're really hoping that this is going to be for our kids during this really tricky time in life. So if you've got questions, go ahead, screenshot. I learned some of these things. Command-Shift-4 on a MacBook. You can screenshot my contact information. I'm happy to brainstorm, to answer any additional questions, share additional resources. My goal in life is not only to serve our kids, but hopefully that this work that we've put in can help kids wherever they are in the world. So truly do not hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to be a resource. So I will throw it back to Tamara. And if you've got other things you want to add, would love to hear it.
Great. Marisa, this is awesome. I'm so excited, and I look forward to keeping up to date with the progress. We do have a couple questions that have come in. One has asked about technology. So do all of the students at Nashville Classical have technology available for them?
So, I thought about this right before I launched on. So Nashville, our mayor dedicated funds to purchase 90,000 computers so that there would be equal access to education, no matter your income level, no matter your background. We're really, really grateful for that. And I will say this, if that is not what's happening where you are, I highly encourage you to reach out to your elected officials. They are the ones that are making these decisions, to your school board. I do really think that our local politics, our local representatives, they're the ones that really should be advocating for our kids during this time. And so I would highly recommend that if you don't have that available, that you reach out to your elected officials and ensure that they're doing their jobs to make sure that there's equal access to education. We also, because through our own fundraising, we already had Chromebooks that every single one of our scholars does have access to. We downloaded a program that they need to have access to directly onto their Chromebook, with big icons that are right on their desktops to eliminate any sort of confusion for them. A Google Classrooms icon, Zearn, we use Zearn. I'm sure lots of schools use different programs, but the programs that are important for us, we stuck icons right on their Chromebooks. Mm-hmm. Highly recommend. I think that is going to be really helpful. So yes, we do.
So a couple more questions that have come in before we wrap up. When using the Zoom platform, are kids allowed to message each other privately, and can this feature be removed?
It 100% can be removed. So you as the host have the ability to allow no messaging at all, only messaging directly to you as the teacher. You can, in the middle of a session, change those settings as you're teaching. So there might be moments where you want kids to be able to message. On the whole, we tend to err on the side of let's make it public, or let's make it directly to the teacher, and let's not have students communicating directly with one another. We think that that would be a distraction to learning. And so it is absolutely possible for you to disable that feature. And that way, keeps kids focused on what's really important.
Great. So a couple more questions before we wrap up. How long does your community meeting last?
Our community meetings live last 30 minutes exactly. Our community meetings in the virtual setting last about 30 minutes exactly if our technology is working in our favor. So we really try to stick to a very structured and concise schedule because we think that that's really important so that our entire school community can rely on that.
Great. Another question, could we have access to the slides of this presentation?
I would love to share this so that you're able to, if you'd like to use it as a template, I think it's a great place to start.
Great, that's from Maria. Thank you. All right, friends, if you have additional questions, you are welcome to get in touch with me or Marisa. We're here to support you. Marisa, thank you so much for the incredible work that you're doing at Nashville Classical and for our Nashville community. Please, I know I tell you this all the time, but know this, anything I can do to support you, I'm here. And friends, that goes for you too. Anything that we can do here at Love in a Big World to support you. These are crazy times and we need each other more than ever. So I will be sending a follow-up email with the resources and links to this conversation today. Feel free to reach out, ask questions, and remember that love conquers fear. So we all need to choose to love in a big world. Have a great day.